and he was not aware that the real effect of that starts October 1st, not December 31st. So it seemed from his body language and some of the things he said that he was not aware of the ramifications, end quote. That was Senator Chuck Schumer to the press after a meeting with Trump on Monday. And this is, I mean, Republicans are seeing other reports here and other media entities. GOP folks are seeing the polls and seeing the data that they are going to be harmed if they don't pass and extend these subsidies, and it's coming down the pike here.
There's an estimate that premiums will go up 75%.
Okay, I didn't see that one, but wow.
I think people maybe have lulled themselves into a sense of, the Republicans are good and the Democrats are bad, if that's your sort of simplified view. And, of course, it isn't always that way. And what you have to do is dig into these facts a little bit. But when they take these subsidies away, it's not 10%. It's going to be rather astronomical. And they're doing it deliberately because they want people to be off these programs. They want people to not be able to afford. Even if you can keep your health insurance, you won't be able to afford it, which is kind of saying you don't want people to be healthy, which you can extend to you don't want people to be alive. That's what Austin was talking about. They would rather have us dead than give up a little 1% of their profit.
Yes.
But
I mean, there's not really profit through the Affordable Care Act.
Well, but there's money flowing it isn't flowing to the insurance companies. I'm sorry. You're the host. You go ahead and host.
Well, I was trying to find some data to back up your assertions. So KFF is saying that an average premium right now is $888 in 2024, and that would rise to $1,900 in 2026. So the average would double if these subsidies expire at the end of the year. The Congressional Budget Office said about 4 million people would basically just drop their health insurance altogether because they wouldn't be able to afford a doubling of their premium.
Or anything close to that. I mean, doubling. I mean, people will have trouble with 25%. You know what I mean? This is why we were calling this catastrophic. It will be catastrophic for people.
It's the thing that we saw with the big suckers bill earlier this year, and I know, Jim, that you've been talking about this a lot, is that the worst effects of it actually don't start until 2027 because the Republicans don't want to have to run on people actually living through the effects of the big suckers bill, losing SNAP benefits, losing Medicaid, rural hospitals shutting down. The problem in front of them, though, now is that if they do not continue the subsidies, then people are going to have to live under their policies starting January 1st. And this is the conundrum that they're in. They do not want these subsidies. They do not want the Affordable Care Act. They don't want people to have affordable health insurance. And so and a lot of their voters are on the Affordable Care Act. I mean, I almost lost my mind. I had to stop looking at social media in November of last year because I saw so many people, Trump voters, suddenly going, wait a minute, what do you mean Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act? I thought those were two different things. I want to get rid of Obamacare. I need the ACA.
That's because propaganda convinces people of absolute BS. And so they run around believing BS, they vote based on BS, and then they go, I didn't realize that was going to happen.
I don't... we keep seeing, it feels like we're always on the brink of a shutdown, and that gets really annoying, and that is a whole separate issue, so I understand there's shutdown fatigue. But I think that this is something, me personally, is that what is going to force the Republicans and MAGA, I'm sorry, there aren't Republicans anymore, there's MAGA. What is going to force MAGA to extend these premiums, because we can't have our health insurance going up from $800 to $1,900. That's just not a thing that we can have. So that's it for us today. I'm sure that Richard Chu on WCPT, Chu's Views, next is going to pick up this conversation, as well as the Matt McNeil Show on AM 950 Radio is going to pick up this conversation. And stay tuned for Native Roots Radio after that. And then at 10 p.m. Central, Step Into the Unknown with Greg Bakken on Ghost Box Radio. You can keep the conversation going with us on Blue Sky. We're at thegaleyshow.org on Blue Sky. You can stream our show also at youtube.com/@thegaleyshow, everywhere you get your podcasts. And until tomorrow, Keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.
Kids across America are going to school hungry. Millions of kids every day. But one simple thing can help change all of this for a hungry child in America. Good, healthy food and the energy it brings. With help from caring people across America, No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. To learn more about ending child hunger in America, go to helpnokidhungry.org today.
Doctors Without Borders is delivering life-saving medical care where it's needed most in communities around the world. From bandaging war-wounded patients in Sudan to providing clean drinking water in Haiti, we're in more than 70 countries worldwide, bringing patients from sick to recovering, from emergency to aid, from crisis to care. This life-saving care is made possible by a global movement of supporters like you. Thank you.
Listen to the Thom Hartmann radio program every weekday from 11 to 2 right here on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
AP News, I'm Paya Panjwani. AP correspondent Donna Warder reports on the second day of a federal government shutdown.
On Wednesday, the director of the Office of Management and Budget, Russell Vought, told House GOP lawmakers in a private conference that layoffs would be starting in the next day or two. But the shutdown already is disrupting the lives of Americans. At the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, tourists were turned away at the entrance on Wednesday. Jim Feather, who lives in Pennsylvania, says it's frustrating that lawmakers in Washington are playing politics.
Their job is to pass a budget, and if they're not doing their job, what are they doing down there?
Molly McAdam of Los Angeles says she supports the Democrats.
If the Democrats were to proceed and find some negotiation without getting the health care for millions, they would just be signing up for a government that the people don't want.
The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has estimated that some 750,000 federal workers could be furloughed. Donna Warder, Washington.
At a news conference yesterday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was asked about Pope Leo referencing inhumane treatment of immigrants in America.
I would reject there is inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants in the United States under this administration. There was, however, significant inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants in the previous administration as they were being trafficked and raped and beaten, and in many cases killed over our United States southern border. You also look at the inhumane treatment at the hands of some of these illegal immigrants that took place under the previous administration as well. Laken Riley comes to mind, a beautiful American citizen who was killed at the hands of an illegal immigrant.
Police in Britain say that 4 people have been injured after a car was driven at members of the public and a man was stabbed outside a synagogue in the north of Manchester. The mayor of Greater Manchester says it's believed that the suspect is deceased. This is AP News. The U.S. military historically has been a sand engine for social change, but the defense secretary has a different view of the future.
When Hegseth spoke Tuesday at the Marine Corps base in Quantico, Virginia, he made it clear he's not interested in a diverse or inclusive force.
For too long, we've promoted too many uniformed leaders for the wrong reasons, based on their race, based on gender quotas, based on historic so-called firsts.
Hegseth said too often the military has been forced by what he calls foolish and reckless politicians to focus on the wrong issues. Dartmouth College history professor Matthew Delmont says the military has been on the leading edge of trying to take advantage of the talents of all Americans.
It's moved faster and farther than almost any other organization in thinking about issues of racial equality, and then later thinking about issues related to gender.
Mike Hemp in Washington.
I'm Haya Panjwani, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today with a high in the mid-80s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, mostly clear, a low near 63. By Friday, sunshine, a high around 89 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun with a high of 87. Sunday, sunshine, high of 85 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 61.
Hey, Tom Hartman here. Mark your calendar for Wednesday, October 15th at my favorite deli restaurant, Max and Benny's in Northbrook. I'll be there talking about and signing copies of my newest book, The Last American President. This is a free event for all my WCPT listeners. Just register on WCPT820.com. Attendance will be limited to the first 100 people, so please go to WCPT820.com to register today. Max and Benny's, 7 p.m. Wednesday, October 15, 461 Waukegan Road in Northbrook. Tag, you're it.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Thursday morning, progressives. Chins up and shoulders back. It's time to fight. Welcome to the October 2nd, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, heartlandsignal.com, and YouTube. You can email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Follow me on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, and Substack. You can catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, that's where you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, the big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews, and of course, posts and articles that we have at our digital platform, which I'm always thrilled to talk about because we have so much great information over there, great clips and such. A couple that you guys will probably appreciate, some comments from the Broadview, Illinois police chief talking about how not only him, but folks that are part of the community were verbally assaulted by some of the ICE agents. And so, that's a good clip that you guys want to check out. And also talking about one of the Republican state representatives in Pennsylvania says that Democrats shouldn't be drafting gun safety bills if they want to save lives. Check this out. If the General Assembly really wanted to save lives, they would put God and the Bible back in school and restore the nuclear family. Wow. I dare say a lot of people who are not of the Christian faith would have a challenge with that, and many that are of the Christian faith don't want the Bible in the school because separation of church and state, and the school is part of the state right there. And the nuclear family, what the heck is a nuclear family? If she really wants to have a conversation about the nuclear family, the way that a lot of the architects of that have been in the United States and want to revisit that, she would probably not be a representative in the state of Pennsylvania. She'd be, quote unquote, at home, barefoot and pregnant. So just kind of, unfortunately, that's the nuclear family does represent. She probably wants it to say that it represents not LGBTQ couples or not single moms or single dads. But anyhow, that's what you find over at Heartland Signal. All the great stuff that we post there, and the great articles that you guys can pass along to your friends and your family and your network of people. On today's show, which I'm looking forward to, as always, we're going to have a couple really good things to chat about. We'll be talking with a candidate for the Illinois 7th Congressional District. Dr. Thomas Fisher will be with us in the 6:30 hour. And then my good friend Enrico Mowatt will be in studio with us in the 7 o'clock hour to just chat up a number of things. And looking forward to having him with us. And then at 7:30, Barbara McQuade, a name that many of you will recognize, Progressive will recognize as one of the leading attorneys, law professors, and ones that's part of a team of attorneys known as Sisters-in-Law will be with us in the 7:30 hour. So looking forward to having a chat with her later in the show. But right now, check this out, progressives.
You expressed some real concern about what is happening and the posture the federal government has taken at that facility. Why are you so worried about what's going on?
Well, let's start with they are firing rounds and gas in some cases, rubber bullets in other cases, at reporters. Let's start with that. Then let's go to just look at when you've got peaceful protesters. They're chanting. They're saying things that I'm sure ICE finds mean. But they're expressing themselves, their First Amendment rights. And what are they doing inside the ICE facility, up on, stanchions and above the fence line? They're firing down at them with these gas pellets and with these rubber bullets at peaceful protesters. There's even video of protesters showing up in the morning with their coffee cups, chanting, right? But they went and got coffee beforehand. They're not doing anything wrong. They're not throwing things, not even a sandwich, at an ICE officer. And instead, they get fired upon while they're standing there. This is not only causing mayhem on the ground, which is exactly what Donald Trump wants. It's his pretext for sending troops in. But it's also disrupting an entire village.
What is the takeaway here about how you and the officials here and the mayor and everyone have sort of responded to these threats? What do you hope to see happen as the outcome here? And what are the takeaways for people right now as he seems to be kind of, happened in Los Angeles, he's threatening other cities. You've been in the crosshairs as well.
Well, he's clearly going after multiple cities now at the same time, right? Portland and Chicago together. He went after Los Angeles. He's gone after Washington, D.C. This is all in an effort to militarize our cities. We stood together, our business community, our clergy, our nonprofit organizations, elected officials together, and some Republicans standing together in front of the camera to say, look at our beautiful city. We have challenges like other cities, but we're not even in the top 25 in terms of crime. So this really isn't about crime. And remember that we don't want you here. Go somewhere where they might invite you. But here in Chicago, here in the state of Illinois, we don't want you.
That's right. Don't want, don't need. And there's signs of folks showing up in different neighborhoods already. We know that ICE has been lurking around. We know what's happening in Broadview. We talked about that. And we know that they're looking at different communities when it comes to National Guard. We don't need the National Guard. We don't need ICE here in any city for that matter. Even the cities that have maybe I'll use worse as a statement. Even the cities that have some of the biggest challenges, to put it that way, when it comes to navigating immigration and navigating folks who are migrating to the United States or trying to migrate from the southern border. Let's be a little bit more specific. We still don't need ICE running around neighborhoods, snatching mothers, taking their children to daycare or picking them up from daycare, or folks trying to get their paperwork right. We don't need that. That's the difference. Trump wants it. Republicans want it because it allows them to do a couple of things. One, and it allows them to continue to keep the conversation up about us versus them, the others. One, it doesn't solve any economic issues like so many Republicans were bamboozled into thinking. And in some cases, that's what they wanted to think, so they were open to the chaos. The second thing it doesn't do is it doesn't represent a country that's really welcoming like we say we are. It's not focused on where real issues are when it comes to immigration. And I guess the fourth thing in my mind is the waste of money. The money that was allocated in this big, stupid A bill is wasteful money going toward nothing that's going to improve our economy and certainly not improve the safety of Americans. So whether it be ICE, which I think should be completely disbanded, gotten rid of in the way in which they are now, or certainly have accelerated since this bill was passed, or National Guard troops being in any city, not just the city of Chicago, any city in America. Because, that misuse of revenue, that misuse of resources should be spent on making sure that lives are improved, really economically and overall safety and health. We just heard the numbers in terms of how much more people will be paying as it relates to the Affordable Care Act and how this the government shutdown is going to be another accelerant on an already burning fire. So we don't want here in Chicago metropolitan area collectively. So I thought about this yesterday. Maybe what should happen is this might really boost voter turnout. And maybe I'll ask the mayor this tomorrow. Maybe what should happen is we should have a vote from folks in the city, residents of the city of Chicago, residents of the state of Illinois, the counties in the state of Illinois at large. I'm just speaking for Illinois. I'm not going to speak for another state, but certainly something to consider. Maybe that's what should happen. We should have a vote on if the National Guard should be here or not. Not just black and white vote, not culturally, but just yes or no vote. And the same thing with ICE. Should they be here or not? Not like, well, in some neighborhoods, no. Black and white vote, yes or no. Majority rule. No electoral college involved in that. Let's take a quick break, Henry. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT Moment in Labor. In 2011, 6 Jimmy John's employees in Minneapolis were fired by their franchise-owning company, Mickey Lynn Enterprises, after fighting for paid sick days. This is a common theme in the union-free world of fast food. Over 13 million Americans work in the fast food industry, making an average of $13,500 a year, not even half the average cost of living. 80% of fast food workers have experienced work-related injuries, and only 13% were covered by their employer. A group of employees referred to as the Jimmy John's Six fought for these rights, creating an online campaign, posting a picture of 2 sandwiches saying one of these was made by a healthy employee, the other was made by a sick employee. Can you tell the difference? Too bad, as Jimmy John's workers do not get paid sick days. Help workers win sick days. More than 32 million Americans work a job that does not offer paid sick days. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278 is our Credo mobile phone and text line. And WCPT listeners now get a 25% off for 2 years at Credo Mobile with the code WCPT25. Credo Mobile, progressive phone company that it's better for all people and the planet. CredoMobile.com is where you should visit. So there you go. Just stop wasting money. Just stop wasting money. And that's really and truly, that's what this is. I mean, which lives have been improved, Trump administration? That's what I want to know. Which lives have been improved? In fact, I mean, here's the thing. There are so many people who are in and around the city of Chicago and the suburbs that there's a question on their mind. There's a question like, what's really happening here? How might this impact me? It's not really a conversation around being safe. That's the problem. This is not really a conversation around being safe. We don't need you and certainly don't want you in the city of Chicago or any city in the country, frankly. I've said it before. Let's not even spend the resources on a city where there is a higher amount of crime. Let the local officials handle it. If anything, give the local officials more resources that are financial based to navigate some of the issues around crime. And as it relates to immigration, let the local officials actually help the people that are there, local officials, I should say, and law enforcement locally help the people that are there navigate even when there's a concern around immigration. It doesn't have to just be a federal law enforcement, i.e. ICE, coming in and raiding. I think people have been saying the Obama administration, they deported a lot of people too. They did, but not with all this. This is the thing. This is the difference. The show of strength was quiet. It wasn't with law enforcement on the streets of the cities that the Obama administration may have deported people from, that weren't properly here. I stay away from the word illegal just because that's me. I don't know. But it wasn't all this, hell and chaos, visually or otherwise. It wasn't part of the conversation in terms of, oh my gosh, they're coming to our city to deport, mass numbers of people and throw them in detention centers and all these other crazy, awful things. We have some short memories here with what the Trump administration did in when it came to putting people in detention camps and, kids with those Mylar, I guess they are like blankets on and in the cages. Remember that? It's like, I hate to say it this way, but how soon we all forget. It's a waste of resources. And the biggest resource of all that it's a waste of is just the social energy, how people think and feel. It's a big drag on that. And the optimism that we would want our country to have is being spoiled by this administration. So, all right, Henry, let's give them a couple of quick Choose Views news items just to bring you up to speed on a few things that I looked into on this October 2nd, 2025. The U.S. government, yes, begins the process of the shutdown shortly after midnight. I'm going to say Congress, but as we wrote this, I'm going to change it up a little bit. The Republicans in Congress failed to advance legislation that would have funded federal agencies for another 7 weeks. They say a key sticking point is Democratic legislators demanded to extend health care subsidies that would expire at the end of the year. An extended shutdown could see about 750,000 employees furloughed for a cost of $400 million per day in lost compensation, according to Bloomberg. It would also delay Friday's much-anticipated September jobs report. I wonder why they're delaying that after they made these changes at the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Meanwhile, gold reached a record high on Wednesday as investors sought safe havens given what's coming with the shutdown. And I've got some comments around this in terms of, what the Democrats are trying to do in the health subsidies and all that. It's a lie that illegals are getting free health care. If they go to the emergency room, there are provisions that provide for them to get cared for. That's not free health care. That's not subsidies and benefits from the ACA. So the Republicans are lying about that. And if the Democrats aren't doing one thing, at least in my opinion, they should speak more about that's a flat out lie. But anyhow, IKEA plans massive New York City expansion. Swedish furniture giant IKEA isn't letting U.S. tariffs slow a $2.2 billion Manhattan expansion. According to Bloomberg, the investment arm of IKEA's largest franchisee just bought 529 Broadway in Soho to house its second Manhattan location, joining last year's acquisition of 570 Fifth Avenue. The assemble-it-yourself retailer makes the move even as the U.S. introduces new tariffs on kitchen cabinets and upholstered furniture. Spokesman told Bloomberg the company would try to eliminate and minimize, if not minimize, price hikes in one of the most lucrative markets, where sales last year reached $5.5 billion. State attorneys generals are suing Zillow and Redfin. The AGs from 5 states sued Zillow and Redfin, alleging that a partnership between the two real estate giants conspired to eliminate competition in the multifamily rental advertising market. The states, including New York, Arizona, and Connecticut, filed a lawsuit just one day after the FTC launched a similar legal action. Earlier this year, Zillow repaid Redfin $100 million to place its advertising for multifamily listings on Redfin's site, a move that the states and the FTC say violated federal antitrust laws. So we'll see. And then last but not least, Peloton overhauls its product line. They announced yesterday a revamped product line hoping to boost sales ahead of the holidays. The new offerings feature better Wi-Fi and processors, while the Plus range now has AI-powered tracking cameras and hands-free controls. With this new, quote, cross-training series, Peloton is looking to appeal to a wider range of customers who just don't cycle, but also do yoga or strength training. Of course, the beefed-up products come with beefed-up price tags, but CEO Peter Stern says they will, quote, deliver a lot more value than the previous iterations did. So we'll see. Peloton was kicking it, no pun intended, when during COVID, lots of people went out and bought one, and other forms of home equipment, which was a big, I think it was important, big opportunity. People stayed healthy. But for those who didn't get out but went out and bought equipment. So we'll see where that goes with Peloton. All right, let's see what our friend Naomi out in Santa Monica has to say this morning. Good morning, Naomi. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm fine. But, I was thinking about all these lawsuits. Isn't that an interesting way to conduct government? Yeah, we have all these rights. We have the right to spend all of the money we don't have on lawsuits every time he feels like filing a lawsuit, and he's using our tax dollars for these lawsuits, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Government by lawsuit.
Yeah.
And he knows every single order that he signs, he knows there's going to be litigation. He knows it's going to be litigation so he can do his illegal activities until the court gets the matter.
Right. Well, here's how I kind of look at it, Naomi. It's do as much harm and as much damage and wreck as much and break as much as possible so that in the event that the Democratic Party does take back the House of Representatives and potentially the U.S. Senate, and we get more and more of these wins in state legislative elections, that so much is broken that the Democrats are going to have to spend so much time fixing the broken and not have enough time to move forward on new plans and new agendas. I think that that's part of the strategy. It's not like rocket science or something that's hidden behind the curtain necessarily, but I do think that is part of what he's trying to do, is just keep breaking and distractions and all these things. Meanwhile, the country, once the country does change leadership, hopefully, it's going to be on crumbly and shaky ground. So that's why we have to do the work now rather than just waiting until the midterm elections, in my observation, as I've said before.
We keep talking about him, but he's really not the problem. You know who's behind all of this? There's plenty of people behind this. There's Bannon. He was involved in Brexit. He's into destabilizing the Western world. Bannon still got his hands in here. That Musk and Russia.
Oh yeah, I mean it's not just. I mean,
they were involved in just trying to destabilize the Romanian elections. In fact, they didn't hold the election when they wanted to because they needed to take care of them. They were trying to take them to court.
Yeah, Naomi, we're having a little bit of.
There's a lot of stuff going on that we don't even know, and it's not just the Republicans. Unfortunately, we're getting slapped with a bunch of stuff from a lot of different directions right now.
Yeah, it's about destabilizing the United States, and so any player, whether they be a U.S. citizen or those that are foreign interests that want to see that, are going to continue to keep this going down this track, and that's to see. As Nikita Khrushchev said, and I'm paraphrasing, we're not going to destroy the United States by firing one shot. It'll be from within. I'm paraphrasing exactly what he said. The intent was, let's do the things that we can do to make the United States cave in on itself. And so we are at that point right now. So, Naomi, thank you so much for your call this morning. Thanks for your contribution. We look forward to talking to you again soon, okay?
Thank you.
All right, bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, guys, we're going to take a quick break. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM, and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Listen up, fellow timeshare owners. If you're a timeshare owner and you want out at all costs, you're done, frustrated, tired of wasting money, you don't use the darn thing. Get out now. Hire the best Bulldog timeshare cancellation team in the business. Their in-house legal team, headed by a timeshare cancellation lawyer, can help you fight the biggest and baddest companies out there that sell timeshare. At some point, you were using your timeshare, but now you're not, and you're tired of wasting money. Before you go to the poorhouse, call right now and learn how you can stop the maintenance fees and put more money back in your pocket. Their services cost you a lot less than you think, and you'll save a lot of money over time. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline now. It's a free consultation.
800-296-0150. 800-296-0150. 800-296-0150. That's 800-296-0150.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather updates.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today with a high in the mid-80s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, mostly clear, a low near 63. By Friday, sunshine, a high around 89 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun with a high of 87. Sunday, sunshine, high of 85 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 61.
Would it be crazy if you packed your bags and left for a week, a month, a year? What if you left for 2 years? What if you were going far away to help in a village on the edge of the Gobi Desert, to teach children and learn a thing or two about yourself? Would that be crazy? Peace Corps. Life is calling. How far will you go?
My name is Dale Pazinski. I volunteer with United Way to help the homeless in my community learn computer skills and build a basic resume. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show, 773-763-9278. Good to be with you this morning. I was just saying before we took the break that, and it's an ongoing part of my conversation, as I think it should be, wasteful money on these, raids and such, unnecessary, waste of resources, and breaking things. That's where where this administration is. It's and the other surrounding players, like Naomi said, breaking things and wasting resources. That's what they are. I mean, maybe we have to come up with a meme around that: wasting and breaking. But those in the medical profession are oftentimes ones that are trying to repair and put things back together, whether it be people, literally, physically, emotionally, and oftentimes it's the community that they're in. Doctors have really been champions in that space for such a long time. We all have a certain reverence to doctors. I think it's just kind of how we're built. When we got sick as children, we, in most cases in our country, got taken to the doctor or got to see the doctor. So the doctor always represented someone that was bringing community together. And so this morning we have with us a person that's now running for Congress in the Illinois 7th Congressional District. I believe that's going to try to bring things back together again. And that is Dr. Thomas Fisher. Welcome to the show, Dr. Fisher.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for welcoming me on.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, you're a Chicagoan that's running for a congressional district, obviously here in Illinois. But tell us a little bit about your background and your ascent to this point where you're now doing something that you probably never thought you were going to ever do.
Well, that's accurate. I never thought that I'd be in this position, but life has a lot of circuitous routes over time. I am a South Sider. I grew up from parents who didn't grow up here. Many Southsiders have been here for generations. My dad came from Kansas City, my mom from Detroit. They settled on the South Side in 1970, which is just at the tail end of the Great Train Migration that brought 500,000 folks up from the South to Chicago. And I grew up in the household of middle-class strivers. I think about my grandfather and mother on my dad's side. Neither one of them finished 8th grade, but then the Civil Rights Act opened up the opportunity for education, and all of my dad's brothers and sisters all went to college and tried to move up into the middle class and give us everything that we needed to succeed. On the South Side at that time, we had strivers and heathens and church folks and the nation, and we had each other. This where I grew up was where Lorraine Hansberry's pen was sharpened, and Michelle Obama got to the White House, and we all needed each other because in all of that we had the kind of segregation that accepts our tax dollars but then disconnects services.
Yeah.
I went to Kenwood, where I did pretty well as a student, and over time became a physician. I've been working in the same community that raised me now for 20 plus years, mostly taking care of people who are sick and injured, just trying to live. And when you do that for long enough, if you're quiet and listen, you kind of get a perspective on how society works and doesn't work. Not only in the secrets that people tell me, but what's revealed in their bodies. And, over the years, not only have I been taking care of patients, I've been trying to work upstream on these issues, trying to solve them, because, you can stop the bleeding or give antibiotics, but healthcare, even doing the best we can in our emergency departments, we can't stop people from coming to us shredded by bullets or sickened with diabetes. And when that waiting room is bursting with people who have been waiting 8 or 9 years, there comes a point where you get fed up, where you're tired of not being able to solve the real problems, where the human suffering becomes a moral dilemma. And in times like this, times like now, that's when I became inspired to try to do more.
So one of the things that's a big question right now, and why you're running for Congress, is you so well laid that out, Dr. Fisher. But let me can I ask you some of those what might be perceived as tough questions, but not tough for you, but tough about where we are right now. Sure. Our support systems, our medical support systems, and I'm using that kind of as a broad language. I've been under attack for a long time, probably the majority of your career, to be honest. But now, they're taking a howitzer to our medical support systems. And I'm using that broadly because we know that Medicare and Medicaid, they're cousins, if you will. And one is some ways dependent on the other, et cetera. Properly funded, one. It's like when you one of your legs is not, you got a bad knee, the other knee eventually from compensation has to take up the slack. And that's what I see happening with our medical support systems. They just keep getting cut away. And now here we are with people having to face what this impending issue with the ACA and all the rest. So talk about your observations about what this hurt's going to cause, but then how you're trying to navigate, and as I said at the beginning, still help put things back together for people.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to recognize that most Americans are covered by public healthcare systems. Between Medicare and Medicaid, that is most people who need health insurance. And if you're talking about pregnant women or children, we're talking about Medicaid. If you're talking about folks who are in nursing homes or getting care at home as they are disabled or older, that's Medicaid. If you're talking about people with mental health issues and need hospitalization and stabilization, That's Medicaid. If you're talking about people who have 2 jobs, hardworking, neither of which may be providing health insurance because they're just under part-time, those people make too little to get to qualify or to pay for private insurance. Those folks are often on Medicaid. We have a number of rules coming that describe how folks who are on Medicaid must demonstrate that they're working twice a year, right? Fill out all this paperwork, all this red tape to remain qualified for Medicaid. All the while they're working, trying to take care of themselves, trying to, care for their elders and their children. That's going to lead to people who are hardworking individuals severing their connection to health insurance at the time, and they usually won't find out until the time they need it the most.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. I'm sorry, Doc.
It's No, I'm sorry for interrupting. It's terrifying. I mean,
right now, this is one of the big conversation pieces around this federal spending and keeping the government open versus being shut down. And a lot of people are talking about, and again, you're running for a Democratic seat, congressional seat. So I have a little bit of leverage here in asking you this type of a question, which is this, and that is, people are saying that the Democratic Party, the reason that the government shut down is because the Republicans were stopping Democrats from giving health subsidies, if more specifically, to illegals. Okay, and it's finally being sort of broken down into, how this is impacted at emergency rooms, which you are an emergency room, a doctor, and so help people that listen to our show better understand what the guidelines are when it comes to someone that comes into the emergency room, whether they are born and raised in Chicago or Philly or Boston or, Lubbock, Texas, or if they've migrated here from Poland or from, someplace in south of the border.
Yeah. Look, when somebody comes to the emergency department, we don't care who they are or where they're from. Like, if somebody has been in a car accident or fallen off a ladder or having their heart attack, the first thing we do is treat their medical problem. We identify why they're here and what the issues are, and we treat them. We don't ask their political affiliation. We don't ask where they're from or whether or not they have insurance. We treat them first. We recognize when people are in these moments in their life where they're either having the worst day of their lives or after a series of bad days, that in those moments we are vulnerable, that being a doctor, being a nurse, being in these healing professions is a part of an ancient guild. They're part of every society and always have been, where when people are vulnerable and in need, we step in and help to solve their problem. If you haven't been sick, you will. If you've never been in an emergency department, that just means you've been lucky so far, but it will come. And in those moments, that's when we step forward and take care of them. The idea that first we ought to check their insurance status or, God forbid, their citizenship before we actually start to deliver care violates our shared humanity. It violates the whole foundation of healthcare. We just step in and take care of people. And then when we do, look, the nurses need to get paid. The lights need to stay on. And I think that is a collective responsibility. Delivering healthcare is something we owe to one another. I think it is a human right. And that is why we have many of these public, why we have Medicare and Medicaid. And in fact, my training as a doctor, all of the doctors' training, that's covered by Medicare.
Yeah. And this is why I said earlier, and I hope I didn't say this in a way that's not that you don't like, but I look at Medicaid and Medicare as cousins. They're running on a rail of at the end of the day, our broader health protection system to make sure that all of our society is getting the care that you just talked about, and particularly when it comes to an emergency care situation. You are running for a congressional seat in a district that's a big geographical area, big in population, multiple communities, diverse in the sense of, city and suburbs of the city of Chicago, but one of the most influential districts in the state, but also in the country, frankly. So what's going to be your secret sauce, if you will, in terms of not just running, but if you were to win this seat, what's going to be your secret sauce? What are you going to then say to the voters that elected you? Here's what I'm going to get done for you. Because so many people right now, I should say it this way, so many conversations are not just that the others are bad, but that we're good, and here are our ideas that make us better and something to vote for. So I know that's a lot to unpack, but go ahead and take it.
Well, let me start with the overview. My goal here is right now, I think we have a society that has incredible technological advances and valuable institutions and resources in order to do a lot of things, but it isn't serving the people that need it. We don't have responsible health care that serves everybody. Our economy means that too many people have lower wages, and inflation around housing and food and utilities make it difficult for people to thrive. And we've got some public safety issues that affect some communities in ways that both shorten their lives but also make it hard to live. But let me tell you a little story, because I think that it's important to recognize that in time, calamity falls like rain. We're all going to get wet sooner or later. I took care of a guy a couple of years ago who got into an altercation. He doesn't really remember what it was, but he got into an altercation. He came in with a swollen eye. He had insurance because he was working, and I did all the things that are required in order to diagnose that he had like a facial fracture that threatened his vision, and he needed an operation. While he's likely to be okay, when I got him engaged with the people who would fix his face, they recognized that while he had insurance, we weren't in his network. So he needed to find where he could go to get his insurance without getting a hefty bill. Now, who's to blame for that, right? When he's in this moment of vulnerability and he has this common struggle that we all face and required to get fixed up, he's now on the phone talking about, well, where can I go? How much is it going to cost? Et cetera, et cetera. We've built these cathedrals in technology and healthcare and law firms. We've built these massive edifices, but there's no spirit in them anymore. Mm-hmm. We've lost our values and our moral compass. And so when your vision is on the line, or mine, and I'm facing a cancer diagnosis, none of us want market forces or technical solutions deciding the value of our lives. But that's right now where these decisions lie. I think under all of it, while I'm talking about economy that serves us and healthcare that serves us and public safety, we need moral leadership in this moment where when we build these institutions and organizations, we have a clear idea of what it is for. It's for each other. It's for creating a society where we can thrive by design, where we flourish, where our life expectancy is longer, where we have a higher quality of life, where our young people have a vision for the future that includes them, where they feel like they can own a home and that things are better than they were years before. We haven't had a life expectancy. Our life expectancy peaked in 2014 and hasn't gotten back there. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that. Some of that is COVID. Some of that is violence. Some of that is our opioid epidemic. But why aren't we measuring success by something so tangible, logical, and measurable as, are we living longer than we used to? None of that is healthcare. That's just how we live, learn, work, and play. That's, do we build a society that supports each other?
We are talking with Dr. Thomas Fisher, who's a candidate for the Illinois 7th Congressional District, and you're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and yes, we are talking to Dr. Thomas Fisher. So, Dr. Fisher, you mentioned the pandemic a moment ago in terms of life expectancy factors or things that have impacted that. And you've also, been one that's been very, very vocal about, how we navigated through that. But what are some of the things that you, I guess I could say, brought with you on this other side of the most intense parts and times of the COVID pandemic?
Yeah. What a tough time that was. I think that moment affected everybody in ways that are hard to fully appreciate. I remember when shutdowns happened, I was working in the emergency department, but I live on the flight path to O'Hare Airport. So, on a day-to-day basis, there was probably an airplane over my head, every 2 minutes. And then all of a sudden, there are no planes in the air. Zero.
Wow.
No cars on the street. I mean, I think we all kind of remember it, but it's hazy now because there are things we want to forget.
Right.
But I spent that year, wrapped in plastic and breathing through a filter, trying to take care of my neighbors who were getting sick. But part of what was interesting about that year is it compressed in time how society protects some people but leaves others exposed and vulnerable. So if you could work from home, you had the kind of job where you could, sit in front of your computer, you were safe.
Yeah.
The rest of us were essential workers. That means we were pushed out into the storm. We were like, nurses and folks working in the hospitals and in nursing homes. They were stocking shelves, delivering food to folks who could stay at home. And then we went home to our families. And if we got infected, we brought them home to our elders and children. And so in 1 year, we saw how society sorted who was exposed to an illness and who was protected. And so in Chicago, which is basically a third Black, a third white, a third Latine, in the first year, 40% of the deaths were Black and only 20% were white. Not because the virus had a preference or there was some genetic difference, but because society sorted us and determined who got sick and who was protected. There's a lesson in that. We're doing that every day. We have these life expectancy differences. There's a large gap between who gets life expectancy on the South and West Side and life expectancy in River North and Streeterville. That's not because of genetics. That's because of the resources that we need to survive are being sorted. And so the pandemic was a very tough time for me and for others, for everybody, really. But it taught me that. It also taught me the value of technology. Like, we got out of that because of vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
Vaccines that we're now tossing aside.
So that leads to my next question in this last little bit of our segment today. The vaccine conversation, Trump, RFK Jr., you know where we can go with this, and we can go all over the map with this. So I fight off my own demons of what I'm thinking versus what I need to say. So respectfully, Dr. Fisher,
yes, sir.
How are you? We know the craziness of what that means, what they're doing, Trump and RFK, and that whole cabal. But what I want to ask a question is one that's about how we move forward and how we prepare ourselves and how do we navigate through this. And I use that word navigate because sometimes that's all we can do is navigate till we get to a better place. How are we going to, during this period of time, navigate through from a medical professional's perspective that's running for a political office when we're looking at what Trump and RFK Jr. are doing to our system, our systems, and what that means to the nation?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an opportunity for people with expertise to step forward and speak clearly about the stakes. That this isn't just a political football bouncing back and forth. These are our lives at stake. We've never had a technology better than vaccines at protecting and extending our lives. I remember listening to my parents and my uncles talking about how much they feared polio as children because of what they saw. we've done so well at some of these things that we don't see it anymore. And so misinformation on the internet has as much power as information. And we need to, again, think about how our institutions need to be supported with morality and values and recognize the stakes in our life in order to use clarity around moral vision, but then use the power of our government to reflect the importance of our lives in protecting us, in protecting science, in protecting technology, in protecting the solutions that we need to live. I think it's important that, we memory hold so much of the suffering of the pandemic. 1.2 million people died of COVID. Now, more of them died after the vaccine than with, because of many of the misinformation that kept people from getting the vaccine. But since 1981, when HIV/AIDS entered our society, less than 800,000 people have died.
Wow.
The stakes are so high for us to just abandon a proven solution to protect our elders, to protect our vulnerable. We need, again, to recognize the moral importance of protecting each other. And that is government's role. If that's the importance of the state, to ensure that we all can thrive, flourish, live longer, healthier lives.
Dr. Fisher, one of the things that, and I appreciate you helping us see that, and this is why I'm looking forward to having you back on the show again as you're going through this campaign and run season. One of the things that Mayor Brandon Johnson has said, not just for Chicago and the state of Illinois, but for the country, is that those who are thinking in a certain way, we have to remember that it's our responsibility to take back and own and promote protecting humanity. Because at its core, it is the thing, I believe, or one of the things certainly high on the list that allows us to stay connected, allows us to work together, that allows us, when we say things like that we have more in common than we have apart, when we look at it from that perspective, I think that those words are very powerful words from Mayor Johnson. I don't want to assume, but what are your thoughts about that?
Correct in that. One of the things that patients ask me all the time is, are we going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? People come to me in moments that they're facing a challenge. They don't know if they're going to live or die, or regain function after a stroke, or have their arm repaired. And while I can't promise the end of their suffering, because we all suffer, or even guarantee a positive outcome, because we all get sick and at some point we're going to die. I've seen more deaths than most people. What I realize sometimes they're asking for is, are you going to be there with me? They want a commitment. And while I can't promise them that they're going to have any of these positive outcomes, what I can do is earn their trust, commit to standing beside them while they suffer, and persist to ensure that we have the best outcomes possible, and tell them the truth all along the way. And I'm running this campaign in the same sort of way, that these are intergenerational challenges. I come from people who helped build this country, who were part of segregation, who were enslaved. I have an uncle who was, memorialized at Bryan Stevenson's lynching museum in Alabama. And we just persist through generations to try to ensure that our democracy lives up to its promises and that society protects each other, and we stay together through it all. That feels like what I've been doing as a doctor as well.
Absolutely. We're going to wrap up, Dr. Fisher, but I can't wait to have you back on. The text messages that I'm getting from people about how excited they are about your candidacy are really are great to see. How can folks find and get involved if they choose to with your campaign?
Wonderful. I would please check me out at thomasfisherforcongress.com. I can use support and volunteers, and we're going to continually update our website with more policies and information. And I'm excited about this process. It's one of these things where you don't get to choose how you die. You only get to choose how you live. I can't predict if I'm going to win or lose. I mean, I'm running to win, and I think that's what's going to happen. But I'm pursuing this with the sort of clarity, courage, and integrity that no matter the outcome, we can all be proud. So let's move forward together. ThomasFisherForCongress.com.
There you go. Dr. Thomas Fisher, thank you for being with us this morning on Choose Views. Look forward to having you back. We'll make sure we make that happen. And thank you for your hard work and your dedication as a physician here in Chicago. Thanks so much, Dr. Fisher.
Thanks for having me on, Richard.
All right. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye. Let's take a quick break, Henry. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Hear that? That's what having fewer hot flashes and night sweats can sound like. Veoza is the #1 prescribed hormone-free treatment FDA approved for moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms, also known as hot flashes and night sweats, due to menopause. Veoza can cause serious side effects, including liver problems. Your doctor will do blood tests before and during treatment. Stop Veoza and call your doctor if you have symptoms of liver problems, such as feeling more tired than usual, decreased appetite, nausea, vomiting, itching, yellowing of the eyes or skin, pale stool, dark urine, or stomach pain. Don't use Veoza if you have cirrhosis, severe kidney problems, kidney failure, or take CYP1A2 inhibitors. Ask your doctor about Veoza. To learn more, call 1-866-239-1637 or go to Veoza.com. That's VEOZAH.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
Protect your liver and give it the support that it deserves with Active Liver from New Nordic. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
AP News, I'm Haya Panjwani. The country is on its second day of a federal government shutdown. AP's Donna Warder reports.
On Wednesday, the director of the Office of Management and Budget, Russell Vogt, told House GOP lawmakers in a private conference that layoffs would be starting in the next day or two. But the shutdown already is disrupting the lives of Americans. At the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, tourists were turned away at the entrance on Wednesday. Jim Feather, who lives in Pennsylvania, says it's frustrating that lawmakers in Washington are playing politics.
Their job is to pass a budget, and if they're not doing their job, what are they doing down there?
Molly McAdam of Los Angeles says she supports the Democrats.
If the Democrats were to proceed and find some negotiation without getting the health care for millions, they would just be signing up for a government that the people don't want.
The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has estimated that some 750,000 federal workers could be furloughed. Donna Warder, Washington.
A flotilla of activists attempting to deliver aid into Gaza is being blocked by Israel's Navy from reaching the coast.
Footage released from the Global Sumud Flotilla showed Israeli soldiers forcibly boarding one of its vessels. The Global Sumud Flotilla consists of nearly 50 boats and 500 activists and is carrying a symbolic amount of humanitarian aid, which Israel has not been allowing in. Among those on board is climate activist Greta Thunberg, Nelson Mandela's grandson Mandla Mandela, and several European lawmakers. It has remained undeterred in its mission to break the Israeli blockade of aid of the coastal strip and reach Palestinians. Israel's blockade of desperately needed aid has led to mass starvation of Gazans in the Palestinian territory. I'm Karen Shamas.
2 people were killed and 3 others were seriously wounded in a synagogue attack in northern England on the holiest day of the Jewish year. This is AP News. AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports it's time to get a flu shot.
Flu kills a lot of people, Americans, every single year. I mean, sometimes it's, the tens of thousands, some of those estimates each year.
Dr. Philip Wong, director of Dallas County Health and Human Services in Texas, last year saw the most flu-related child deaths in 15 years. But experts say this month, October, is the ideal time to get protected before flu cases begin climbing in November. Dr. Wong again.
It's really important. It's preventable. These are effective. They're safe. Again, it's a very serious illness. It can cause very severe illness, hospitalizations, and even death, and it does that every year.
And if you don't like needles, the nasal spray Flu Mist is available for ages 2 to 49. I'm Ben Thomas.
I'm Haya Panjwani, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today with a high in the mid-80s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, mostly clear, a low near 63. By Friday, sunshine, a high around 89 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun with a high of 87. Sunday, sunshine, high of 85 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 61. Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer lets you easily compare direct rates from different insurance companies, so you can be confident you're getting the right one, even if it's not with Progressive. Way more confident than you were when you tried online gaming. Who knew 12-year-old boys could be so mean? And where did they learn to swear like that? 2 hours of losing to these underage trash talkers, and you're starting to question if maybe you really should stick to pickleball and other boomer stuff. So use Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer and be confident you're getting insurance that's right for you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
I want to just read a few parts of what the president said, that the country is under invasion from within. There's a war from within, and that we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military National Guard. We're going to Chicago very soon. That's a big city. It's the enemy from within. What is your reaction to hearing that from the president?
Well, first of all, it's very clear that this president is off. He is unhinged and clearly double-minded and unstable. And what I've presented as mayor of the city of Chicago is a different vision for America that's investing in people and building the safest, most affordable big city in America. And I want to just be absolutely clear. We vehemently reject the idea of a militarized force occupying the city of Chicago or any American city. It is antithetical to what our democracy is about. And there's not a single soldier that has enlisted in our armed forces with the idea or expectation that they would be sent to American cities to declare war on American people.
Including, we should note, the people that served our armed forces from Austin and Lawndale and back of the yards and every neighborhood across Chicago and across every major city, including who served in our armed forces from the Bronx where I grew up.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And so, the number of people, in the city of Chicago that have put their lives on the line to protect our democracy and to fight, wars that ultimately could be disruptive to our larger global experience to protect our humanity. That is not what our soldiers have signed up to do. And again, this idea of declaring war on poor people, working class people, on cities across America. I remember once upon a time when presidents would declare war on poverty, not a war on poor people.
Yeah. Welcome back to the show, guys. And that's exactly, the mayor hit on so many good points that I think we have to keep talking about those points. We have to keep reminding ourselves that that's not the purpose, as I said at the beginning of the show, that is not the purpose and point of our military men and women at all. With us this morning is another great Chicagoan, good friend of mine, Chicago businessman, and just a dude that stays plugged in. And if you mess with me, you got to deal with him. And if you mess with him, you got to deal with me.
Absolutely.
And that's my good friend, Enrico Mowatt, who's been with us before here on the family meeting, but certainly here as well on Choose Views. Good morning, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Even better now that you are here. So as we can say, we can chop it up. What the mayor said there about any city, that was an interview that he had done with Chris Hayes on MSNBC. And Chris said, he listed some neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. Chris knows his way around Chicago because he spent some time here. He spent some time here professionally in his career. But what the mayor said is true. In any city, not just in Chicago, any city, I've said it my way, red or blue city, we don't need military trained folk in our city to navigate what the local law enforcement can do, and if properly funded and trained and all those other things, can do an even better job.
Yeah, and first off, shout out to the mayor because that statement, "the president is off," is the understatement of the year.
It is.
It truly
Remember
is.
when we were growing up and we would be teasing and say that boy is off.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Donald Trump is off, and Mayor Johnson. Yeah.
And the one thing that is really clear is that this is not policy.
Mm-hmm.
This is petulance.
Yep.
This is someone who clearly has no best practices. And he's really turning America on its head in so many different ways, socially, fiscally, domestically, internationally. And it's a dynamic where we don't need that. No city needs that. No city wants that. Yes, there are dynamics that when it comes to immigration that have to be kind of, improved and resolved. But this just isn't the way. And the other thing, too, is shooting from the hip and just saying what's on your mind when you're, just kind of coming up with conjecture. It's careless.
Yeah.
It's truly some of the most careless acts that a politician can commit to by just being off the cuff and not necessarily having a plan.
He calls it the weave. Or the way, whatever the weave or the wave. We know what the weave is all. We know when we know what weaving is.
We know what weaving is.
But to that end, I mean, you not having best practices or any practices at all. I've said for a long time that one of the biggest issues with Donald Trump is that he's been painted by so many people as this business savant, which he's clearly not.
No.
And, I speak to this as much as I can in terms of what some in the mainstream media is really cashed in on, and that is that they continue to prop up the fact that, not the fact, but prop up the lie that he was that person.
Never was.
And it just keeps repeating itself. There's still this sort of belief or feeling that he's got these superpowers when it comes to business, and he never had them, and he has never learned the lesson to slow down and try to acquire them.
There's a clip that I don't want to say it's gone viral because it's been out for a while, and it featured the late great Barbara Walters. And if you haven't seen the documentary, the 2020 special that talked about her ascendancy and her prominence as a journalist, absolutely brilliant and absolutely great, where she's interviewing Donald Trump. And it is a younger, slender, normal hair-colored Donald Trump
that we know of. And he's again leading in conjecture, saying how great everything is and how great of a business person is. And she's like, "My man, you're broke. Yeah,
I've talked to your people.
Yeah,
I've talked to your banks. You filing bankruptcy." And she just completely, utterly demolished the myth that he has created. And the funny thing is, if you watch that clip, you can see the seeds planted and how that person then and who he is now and what he's doing. You see the direct correlation of those people that have called him out and the payback and his desire to kind of, turn things on its ear to kind of be that petulance that I talked about and really, show everyone how great I am.
Yeah.
And it's
a good example of that in terms of him sort of aspiring to greatness rather than actually having it or building it or it being part of who he is the most recent example in my mind is when he went to when he walked out in front of all the generals and they didn't applaud, which they are not supposed to do, no matter who the president is, and he thought it was an affront on him. And so it shows two things. One, his desire and need for that. It's the fuel that he needs to keep himself propped up. But it also, which I thought was even more alarming, is that he doesn't realize that that's not what they do. And so the fact that he didn't realize that, but had an expectation for it, shows his disconnect not only from reality, but his disconnect from what the job is and what the protocols are in that role. And that to me is what a lot of people aren't talking about, that part of the general's speech or the speech to the generals.
No. And in part, his mindset is an audience equates adoration, and that's not it. And he doesn't understand that when you are in front as a political figure and as leader of the free world, you are not there for adoration. You're there to command, integrity, respect. You're representing a country. You're not representing yourself.
Yeah.
And in that representation, he's completely ambivalent in terms of representing the American people.
Yeah.
And the folks that have voted for him, there are some who are fueled by emotion and who are rah-rah-rahing, his displays of narcissistic disorder. and then there are other people like the farmers whose crops are going, in the tank because the workers that they had have been rounded up.
Or are afraid to show up.
Or the blue-collar individual who's like, egg prices are not going down. Gas isn't going down like you promised. And they're scratching their heads and saying, wait a second, this is not what I voted for. So, yeah, he doesn't have a command of best practices and protocol because he's an atypical politician, because he's not a politician.
Yeah. And that's where I think a lot of people got tripped up. They thought, because of their dissatisfaction with politicians at large and on at a macro and a micro level, that if we vote for this outsider of politics, then we're going to get what we want. And in fact, they've gotten worse or less than they wanted or believed. And now, what I said the other day, Rico, is that more people should have the capacity, I believe, to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I made a mistake, I could have done a better job. You and I, both having played sports, both have been blessed to have higher education, we recognize that we missed the mark more than we hit the mark.
Yeah.
And that one of our superpowers as friends, as guys, as people that we know about each other, is we're quick to say, man, I messed up.
Yeah, my bad.
I messed up. Let me figure out how I can fix that. It's the first thing that I think you and I, raised in different households but similarly raised, take on is like that's the first thing you do.
Yeah.
And that capacity does not exist seemingly with so many of the people that have voted for not just Donald Trump, but the entire GOP machine. And I don't mean just on a federal level, but also on a state level, that we messed up.
Yeah.
And I think one of the fastest ways to heal, I was just talking with Dr. Fisher before you came in, that is to acknowledge that.
It's to acknowledge it, but acknowledging it means you got to fix it.
Yeah.
And that's also one of the biggest challenges that we're facing right now. How are we going to fix this?
Yeah.
How can it be fixed? And the first step is just admitting that it needs to be. And, just in talking to people and, where my ecosystem is in terms of where I go and what I do, it's intriguing in terms of people's inability to just admit the wrongs, admit the wrongs that are being committed, admit the wrongs about what people say and what people do. I know that there are certain people that are being propped up and idolized, flags half-staff, things of that nature. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about it. And I've heard people say certain things about certain individuals, like, I don't agree with all of this stuff, but some of the stuff he was right about. Or not right about, but yeah, I kind of identify. But what about the other stuff?
Yeah.
And I was like, what about the other stuff that he talked about?
Yeah.
And so it's amazing to me, people's inability to kind of categorize or acknowledge when something is not right and admitting to it. And I don't know what their kind of moral foundation is when they can't.
Yeah, and that is a challenge that we face. We're going to take a quick break, you guys. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-708-3091. 800-708-3091. 800-708-3091. That's 800-708-3091.
WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. With my man Enrico Mowatt, chopping it up as he and I say so often. And we were talking peripherally around, a person that lost their life recently, and how so many people still want to defend that what he was saying or the fact that he said it was good. This is where my position was with that, man. I gave the few days that I needed to give to it, and then I said, okay, I'm done. I'm moving on because, it was clear what he was doing, and the people that stand behind it now are people that we have to watch out for because they want to believe that what he was saying and what he was talking about was, some great message, and it really wasn't. It was not at all.
No.
So stop lying, folks, to yourself. All right. So Mayor Johnson had his points that he made, which were fantastic. Governor Pritzker's in the same vein in many ways in terms of, we don't want you here. I love how they go away. Get out of our yard. Mayor Johnson and Governor Pritzker are like the two dudes. It's like in some ways, and we have to make humor of this as best we can, even though we know that it's serious and there's danger to people's lives involved. But they're like two dudes sitting in the front yard, and some ragamuffin comes by. And
some
scallywag comes by, and the mayor and Governor Pritzker sitting there like, y'all better get out of here.
Get out of here, scallywag.
We don't want you around here.
What are you doing in these parts?
What are you doing in these parts? And that's kind of how they've been in some ways. It's like, we don't want you here.
Yeah.
Go away. And that's the fight that's in front of us. Is not only do we not want them here, we also know that those resources would be better used.
Absolutely.
For so many other things that are actually part of the front end of the problem.
Well, and clearly, we don't need that here. And it's not even them, meaning, the militaristic force. We don't need that. We don't need that tenor, that rancor. We don't need, that riling up.
Nope.
There are other ways to do this. And that's the other thing that people aren't talking about. And I mentioned the notion of petulance, which is derivative of emotion. A lot of this stuff is emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about this when I talk about civic engagement, which I've been talking about with you every time I'm on your show or a guest host. No one is talking about the emotional fuel that is the catalyst behind all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And making up, this as an operation that's for the betterment of America and all this, it is complete fodder. It's like, are there alternatives? And have we exhausted them? Have we tried them? What could they be? And no, let's just use force. Let's just get in there. And I mean, even changing to the Department of War and all these other monikers and all these other things is shameful.
Yeah, and who cares if we were once, in the 1900s referencing ourselves as the Department of War? Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, to go back to that, and the Department of Defense is what, anyhow, it's the petulance is driven. Here's one of the things that you and I talk about, in private with some certainly saltier language that I think a lot of people truly don't want to embrace right now. And it is part of the emotional feeling. Is that so many people are recognizing their mediocrity.
Oh, my God.
And that is in the back of their minds. And you and I see this and experience this in a different way than most people want to talk about. As black men, we recognize the mediocrity of so many people that have presented themselves as being these, superhuman, stronger than, better than, faster than everybody else. And what actually Donald Trump has, in a weird sort of way, and the Republicans at large on all levels, have actually exposed, and this is a subtle thing, but it's a massive conversation. Donald Trump's ineptitudes, his mediocrity, his fecklessness, all of those things, as much as so much of society wants to look at him as this great dude, it's actually exposed, without question, how not great he is and how not great so many other people that have perpetrated the lie, as the largest communities have, that white society is the better society.
It goes beyond that because it really exposes these folks for who they are. The Department of War gets up there and speaks to all the military leaders and stands there as a disgruntled, unaccepted frat boy who uses vernacular and hip speak that originates in our community,
right,
and does not get a single applause and looks like a moron.
Yeah,
and looks like a typical individual who's trying to sound cool by using hip speak, and is exposed for someone who who's fallen up. Who's not supposed to be there.
He's failed forward.
He's not supposed to be in the role that he's supposed to be in. All the questions that led up to, before he was appointed are now answered. Not just by his ineptitude in terms of being able to do the job, but that moment encapsulates it. Mm-hmm. Other individuals, you're just seeing this snowball. The head of the FBI, and I refuse to name their names.
Attorney General,
right?
The Department,
it goes on
Department
and on.
of Education.
When you hear some of the egregiousness of and turmoil of their acts, in those roles, and when they have to speak on them and defend them, it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
it's also not just eye opening, but it is eye opening. It's eye opening. Like, you allowed someone to take over one of the most important job in the free world, and he's appointing these imbeciles, these folks that are completely incapable.
Yeah.
You don't go to a barbershop for a heart transplant.
Nope.
You don't
go to a surgeon for a haircut.
Exactly.
I mean, they bring in someone that, when you have to have brain surgery, they bring in someone that at least is capable of shaving your head in a reasonably respectable way.
Right, exactly. and so, it's like, I've got some electrical issues. Oh, go call a plumber. And that's exactly what's happening. And then for some reason, like, not all of America, but the people that voted for this nonsense, they accepted it, but now they're kind of saying, wait a minute. But they're not saying it out loud.
And then the other part of this is, and are we good with, not yet, okay. The other part of it is that, again, I keep coming back to this. It's not just the people who, quote unquote, have been elected. It's the society at large that can't get unstuck.
No.
To say, if I really, really care about this country, then doggone it, I got to acknowledge
I got to say something.
I got to say that this is not, I don't have, again, but then I go, well, but why, what's preventing them? You know me, I'm a why guy. So, but why is it that they're not saying it? And it's got to be because their mediocrity has been exposed, and to acknowledge that means that they are now exposed for their mediocrity.
Yeah.
And
also acceptance of that mediocrity, and or voting for it. There's, the great Samuel Jackson. He's got so many great
Samuel
lines.
L. Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson. There's a line in the movie, one of his early films, Juice, I'm not going to say all of it because, again, radio, I don't want to get in trouble. But
get me in trouble.
It tends to be a little spicy in his language. But he said just because you pour syrup on doesn't make them pancakes.
Right.
and there's a lot of syrup being poured
on body excrement.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Henry?
Politically, that just because you appoint someone in a prominent role doesn't make them prominent. Just because you give someone a title and say, okay, go do this, doesn't mean they're competent for the job.
No.
And it's amazing to me what they're doing to dismantle, some of the, not just safeguards, but the typicalities of policy, of American needs for Americans.
Yeah.
And it's just readily accepted. And I'm a little scared. I'm a little nervous. I'm looking at, I've got two sons, 20 and 17, and I'm like, okay, what's their stuff? What's my stuff going to be looking like in 10, 15 years?
Yeah.
And it's something's got to give.
Yeah, and I think that for us who are fighting this and talking about it and trying to keep people aware of what's happening, it is there is some there are valid excuse me, guys, valid concerns, because it doesn't seem like enough people. See, I'm of this mindset, Rico. It's not just that the elected officials aren't doing their part. Some of them are on the quote Democratic side. Sure. We recognize that. We know that. We know that the those on the Republican side are really driving the train into the ditch.
Yeah.
And so we ask those on the other side to pull the train out of the car out of the ditch. But in terms of elected officials, and we're gonna take a break. But I'm equally concerned about everyday folk and what they're not doing. And again, I don't want to blame voters and blame everyday people, but I do rest on that if we care about this thing we call our country and our democracy, then are you really willing to fight for it?
People care about being right.
Yeah.
They don't care about being happy. They don't care about what's right. They care about being right. And that unfortunately is where America has lost its way, because none of this can be deemed right in terms of what's happening.
Not for the greater good of people.
Absolutely.
Let's take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM, and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
WCPT will be broadcasting a live in-person Union Strong panel on Wednesday, October 15th from 3 to 5 p.m. And you're invited. Join me, Tom Hartman, and WCPT's morning host, Richard Chu, at the Ironworkers Local 63 Training Center in Broadview. Panelists include Paul Wendy from Ironworkers Local 63, Rob Fulton from Riggers Local 136, Cliff Horowitz from Horowitz & Associates, Andy Rico from IBEW Local 176, and Tom Villanova from Southland Friends of Labor. This event is proudly sponsored by Ironworkers Local 63, Riggers Local 136, Horowitz & Associates, IBEW Local 176, and Southland Friends of Labor. Wednesday, October 15th from 3 to 5 p.m., Ironworkers Local 63 Training Center, 2523 Lexington Street in Broadview. That's just off the 25th Street exit on the Eisenhower Expressway. All listeners must register to attend this free event at WCPT820.com. Just click on the banner.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather updates.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today with a high in the mid-80s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, mostly clear, a low near 63. By Friday, sunshine, a high around 89 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun with a high of 87. Sunday, sunshine, high of 85 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 60.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires. Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Can't hear it. Hey guys, oops. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I had my foot on the wrong cord there, so and kind of a little bit late getting back in. So this next segment I've been really excited about having, and I've watched this brilliant woman on so many different shows and heard her on so many different podcasts. Law professor, former United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan, co-host of the Sisters in Law podcast, author of Attack from Within, How Disinformation is Sabotaging America. Who am I talking about, guys? I'm talking about Barbara McQuade. Good morning, Barbara, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. Glad to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Good to have you with us this morning. So much to talk about. I mean, your work has been so appreciated by so many people, and talking about everything from local law to things that are happening on a federal level, and by all means, the Supreme Court. And I wanted just to kind of dive right in because of some of the recent decisions of the Supreme Court, and most very recently that the Supreme Court said that they will hear arguments in January about whether Trump can fire Lisa Cook from the Fed. And I know you've got some observations about that, but tell us what you're seeing and what are your thoughts as it relates to the Supreme Court's decision to take certain cases versus others, and certainly this one with Lisa Cook.
Yes. So both really insightful questions. So let me get to the one about the decisions the court makes to choose cases. Remember that the Supreme Court, unlike other lower courts, doesn't just take the cases that come across its desk. That's the way other courts operate. There has to be a real case or controversy. It comes there, and they have to decide it. The Supreme Court gets to pick and choose its cases. And so it tells us a lot about the court by which cases it chooses. And so some of these cases are those that help implement a particular agenda, choosing to take on cases involving the culture wars, choosing to take on cases about campaign finance laws, choosing to take on cases that could erode the Voting Rights Act, and choosing cases about presidential power, including something known as the unitary executive theory. And so all of the cases that it's taken, this term, really do provide an insight into their role in advancing a particular worldview. Now, I don't know that it's particularly pro-President Trump or anti-President Trump, but it does suggest a conservative worldview that is often consistent with the agenda of President Trump. So, for example, we've seen this case you mentioned of Lisa Cook. She is a governor of the Federal Reserve Board, which has long been valued for its independence. The idea that we have governors who are economists, people with PhDs in economics, who are making decisions about our banking system based on their expertise and not on politics has been essential to that group. President Trump, of course, keeps clamoring for lower interest rates. That's good for him in the short term. People can borrow money, they can buy homes. So that's a political win for him. But the Federal Reserve is looking at the long-term interest of the United States. It's looking at global markets. And so sometimes it decides not to cut interest rates or to do so at a very small rate. They're trying to achieve this delicate balance between slow economic growth, avoiding inflation, avoiding joblessness, and other kinds of things. And so if the president can fire people, it destroys that independence that we have come to rely on. Back to the nation's founding, back to the days of Alexander Hamilton, the idea of this independent bank. And so that case really is one to watch. So far, the court has treated that board differently than other federal agencies, because another one before the court is whether the president can fire the heads of other independent agencies like the Federal Trade Commission. These are agencies created by Congress that says they are independent, they serve set numbers of years of terms, and they can be fired only for just cause. The president has come in and removed all of the people appointed by Democratic presidents from some of these boards, like the NLRB and the FTC. Interestingly, the court has, while waiting oral argument in those cases, allowed the firing to occur. It may change the rules later. But with regard to the Federal Reserve, the court has kind of carved out a difference here. Now, they've said that the reason is that the Federal Reserve Bank is a quasi-private entity going back to the days of Alexander Hamilton. But it feels like they just care about the money. You know, like, go ahead, you can get all these regulatory agencies that protect individuals, like Consumer Protection and Federal Trade Commission. But don't mess with my money, President Trump.
Well, I think that's a phrase that a lot of people would like to be able to lean into right now, because he most definitely, with these executive orders, is messing with people's money, whether it be institutions or whether it be businesses and certainly everyday consumers. He's messing with people's money. And that, to me, I'm hoping that that's going to be the thing, the straw, if you will, that will get more people back to voting, back participating in this process, is recognizing that the guy and the party that said that they were going to fix everything on day one essentially hasn't, and they, through executive orders, are now messing with people's money and their livelihoods.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think one of the other big decisions before the Supreme Court this term is going to be the one that relates to tariffs. So, you know, President Trump has used this power to suggest that it's all about leveling the playing field between the United States and foreign countries when it comes to our trade deficit. And they've taken advantage of us, and that's why we are economically disadvantaged. But I think what people have been seeing is that tariffs actually result in higher prices for consumers. We went through a round of tariffs back in the days of President McKinley and realized what a terrible idea they were, because it allowed the rich to get richer and the poor to get poorer, and, you know, the middle class to be burdened with paying in the form of higher prices on consumer products. And so this case before the court that they've agreed to take up in November about whether the president has power to impose tariffs, I think is also going to be a very significant one. The Constitution gives the power to impose taxes on the Congress. The president has tried to lean into some emergency powers to impose all of these tariffs, but I think this is another one to keep an eye on, because it really will reflect the court's view of presidential power.
It's a long emergency if it is. This is an emergency that keeps changing. I mean, the goalpost keeps changing on this emergency. And so that's one of the reasons that you look at it and go, this is an emergency. I mean, Barbara, we know this. That's the thing. Not even instinctively. We just know from common sense, from looking at what the items are that are being debated. I'm going to ask you a kind of a two-part question. I'll just ask it in parts. I've had a number of people that have asked me this question, Richard, and this is a Chicago thing, but it's part of the national conversation. Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an executive order that masks for ICE agents is not allowed. I'm speaking broadly. But there are people that have asked me the question, how come, why is it, and how should we navigate through when an ICE agent physically mistreats a person? What do the local authorities, and not just here in Chicago, but in other cities, LA, DC, and the list goes on, where an ICE agent physically, manhandles or mistreats someone? What is the local authorities' purview in dealing with that? And I know this is a broad question, but I wanted to ask you as an attorney, but also one that's dealt with some of the federal to state level jurisdiction.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and one that we haven't really had to grapple with before. When I served as U.S. attorney, we worked very we were the federal law enforcement. We worked very cooperatively with state and local law enforcement. We used to have, deconfliction systems to make sure you knew what the other groups were doing. You coordinated. You were all on the same page, working toward common goals. what we're concerned about now, of course, is that feds are going to come in with masks and abuse the rights of individuals. It's really dicey for a state law enforcement officer to intervene if he sees a federal law enforcement officer using physical force against an individual. Now, officers and agents do have a duty to intervene if they believe that someone is engaging in excessive force. So if, for example, a local police officer is standing on the corner with an ICE agent and the ICE agent randomly grabs somebody and starts beating them, that local officer doesn't just have a right but a duty to intervene and stop that. The trickier thing is often it's a little messier than that, right? There's, the issue gets escalated, there's raised voices, and if the officer has any reasonable belief that he is in danger of bodily injury, his life is in danger, or other members of the public are in danger, then he does have the right to use physical force, always one level higher than the perpetrator. And so that makes it awkward, I think, for a police officer to really, know what is my duty here? What are my rights here? Because if they interfere with the exercise of the federal officer's duties, they could be in trouble for obstructing or impeding a federal officer. So it really creates a system of chaos. Now, after the fact, you can untangle it with lawsuits and other things, but of course, that means the harm has already been done. Some individual has been harmed or beaten. So it's creating chaos on our streets to not have clear lines of communication about what officers at various levels can do and should be doing together. It should all be in a very coordinated form. But instead, we've got the Trump administration, in my view, sending out members of the National Guard or federal agencies just to create a show of force, to be able to say politically, we are on the side of law and order, they are on the side of crime and chaos. And that is just not a responsible way to run a government.
And it's also not a good way to allocate and put forth our resources. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We are talking with Barbara McQuade, and if you follow anything legally right now and have been for the past few years, you will recognize her legal analysis, her legal bona fides, and just someone that has made it clear that the peril that we are in, there's some legal remedies for it, but right now those are being tested as well. Barbara, talk a little bit about your view of this most recent, and talk about, when I say talk about this, the woman Lindsay Halligan, who was appointed to this indictment recently. And you've got some thoughts about that may not necessarily be, I'm going to use the word right because I don't know what the legal word would be in terms of how this is playing itself out. Talk to us about that.
Yes, so it's very interesting. We saw Lindsay Halligan get appointed U.S. Attorney 4 days after her predecessor resigned or was fired for refusing to indict James Comey. And, she apparently said, I'll go in and sign that indictment and present it to the grand jury, and she did. But one of the things that has been pointed out by conservative former Justice Department officials is that her appointment appears to be illegal. U.S. attorneys can be appointed in one of three ways. The most common way, the traditional way, is the president nominates the person. They are then confirmed through the Senate after the Senate reviews the person's background and qualifications. She did not come in through that traditional path. And the reason we have that path is to make sure that there is a check on the president's power, that he's not putting in people who are either unqualified or are there for political motivations. There's a second way, which allows the president to appoint somebody called an acting U.S. attorney. That person must either have been presidentially appointed and Senate confirmed to some other position in the government, again, to provide that check. She was not. Or that they have served in a senior role within the organization for at least 90 days. So, you promote somebody who got hired in the merit manner as an acting. She was not that. She was not working at all at the Justice Department before President Trump put her there. And then the third way is one that allows the Attorney General to appoint a U.S. attorney. That was done with her predecessor, Eric Siebert. That lasts for 120 days, after which time that appointment expires. And then it is the power of the court to choose who should be the U.S. attorney. And the court in the Eastern District of Virginia picked Eric Siebert. Now, he resigned and was fired. But according to a memo written by the Office of Legal Counsel at the Justice Department, the Attorney General and the President doesn't get like a do-over. Like, they don't get to start over with a new presidential appointee. It's the court's job to appoint here. And the author of that memo was a DOJ lawyer 4 decades ago named Samuel Alito, now Supreme Justice of the Supreme Court. So under none of those three scenarios is her appointment lawful, which means that much like the decision we saw by Aileen Cannon, remember when she threw out the Mar-a-Lago indictment because she ruled that Jack Smith was illegally appointed? I think that James Comey would be well within his rights to file a motion to say his indictment is fatally flawed for the same reason. Of course, he's represented by a very good lawyer, Patrick Fitzgerald, the former U.S. attorney in Chicago.
Yep.
So I'm sure they're aware of that argument. I think strategically, the only thing you might be thinking is, no, you know what? I just want to go to trial and clear my name and show them how wrong this case is. Because, to file these motions would tie this case up in litigation for years. I think he would win. And, it's a strategic call whether he wants to, go to trial and make him prove the case already, or whether he would like to challenge it and get the case thrown out.
Got it. Barbara, my colleague and friend Enrico is in studio with us and has a quick question he wanted to ask you.
Hi, Barbara. Big fan. Seen you on MSNBC and NBC for years. Love your legal mind. And,
Thank you.
And I think what you just broached is leading to this question. What do you think the biggest threat or challenge is currently? Is between the weaponization of the Justice Department, or really the disinformation that the current administration seems to be pumping out regarding its role in government?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I think they're intertwined. I think it's kind of a both and situation. Because you remember on Trump's first day in office, one of his 26 executive orders was one about holding accountable the Justice Department for weaponizing its powers against him and others. Because, of course, he's trying to rewrite history, right? The pardons against the January 6th attackers who, injured and assaulted police officers. He's called them heroes and martyrs. To try to rewrite the whole chapter of his own indictments to excuse that by firing all the people at the Justice Department, accusing them of engaging in lawfare, using the law as war. And so I think by using disinformation to accuse them of wrongdoing when there's no basis in fact for those accusations, he is trying to suggest that, okay, now is just the comeuppance for all these people who violated the law. So people like Jim Comey, who was overseeing the Russia investigation when he was there, or Letitia James, who obtained a civil fraud judgment against Donald Trump for the Trump Organization, or Alvin Bragg, who obtained 34 counts of criminal offenses for falsifying records. If you can say all of those people were politically motivated and engaged in lawfare and the weaponization of their offices, well, now when he targets them, he's just holding them accountable for wrongdoing. That is such an abuse of power to go after your political rivals. He is blasting through norms that we've had in place at the Justice Department since Watergate. So, number one, the president's not supposed to communicate with DOJ about cases. Not only is he communicating, he's doing it in broad daylight on his social media feed. Prosecutors are not supposed to consider partisan politics when making charging decisions. Again, we're not seeing any of these mortgage fraud cases against Republicans, including the parents of Bill Pulte, who apparently also claimed homestead exemptions for more than one property. Only Democrats and only people who targeted Donald Trump, like James, Bragg, and Comey, and Adam Schiff.
Yeah.
And the third one is a norm to neither confirm nor deny even the existence of an investigation. And again, we've got Trump saying these people are guilty as hell and all this other stuff. So it really is an abuse of the position. And it really should be chilling to every American, because any one of us who ends up in the crosshairs for what we say about the Trump administration could find ourselves charged with a crime, which is, not the way things are supposed to work in America, where we honor the rule of law.
Norms are such a part of this, versus not in every case, but actual law. that's in place. And I think that's one of the reasons that Project 2025 built part of its dialogue, because a lot of the things that we're dealing with are norms rather than just written and settled law. To that end, one of the questions that came to me is, what do you think the role is ultimately going to be, or if there is one really at all, in terms of the courts when you've got an executive branch that just ignores decisions and court decisions and policy?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, the president has said he will follow orders of the Supreme Court. I guess by omission, he is saying he doesn't care about lower courts. And of course, all of us are bound to follow the orders of courts, even if we believe they're wrong, unless and until they're appealed and reversed by a higher court. But we've seen, you know, the Trump administration has not gone quite so far as to admit that it's violating court orders, but it sure seems to do it or come close. You know, I'll think of, you know, some examples when a court ordered the Trump administration to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who they admit was erroneously deported to El Salvador in that big scoop up of men that sent them to that terrorist prison in El Salvador. Even the Supreme Court said, you must facilitate the return. And they took the view that, you know, and then the lower court said, well, let's go. What's going on? You haven't facilitated his return. Well, facilitate. What does that even mean, right? I mean, sure, if he should find himself at the border knocking on the door, we'll let him in. But other than that, we don't have any obligation to do anything more. And, you know, they had to go back and forth to say, no, facilitate means to actively bring him back. It's an active verb.
Yep.
And then they only did so when they indicted him. And then, lo and behold, they sure had the ability to bring him back all along. So it's stuff like that. They never quite admit they're violating the rules. But we also know from a DOJ whistleblower that when a judge ordered that group of men to remain in the United States when planes were ready to whisk them off to El Salvador back in March, the judge said, no plane shall leave, and if any planes are in the air, they must turn around. The first thing the Justice Department said is, well, it was an oral order, so we didn't think that counted, because they did send people off.
Yeah.
But we know from this DOJ whistleblower that what we heard from the Deputy Attorney General at the time, Emil Bove, who's now a judge, an appellate court judge appointed by Donald Trump, he said, there's no way those planes aren't leaving, and we need to be prepared to say F the courts.
Yeah.
So that is really chilling, because that's what caused this this DOJ lawyer to become a whistleblower, is he was so alarmed by that phrase.
Barbara McQuade, I mean, I say this often with guests. I just put my pen down and listen, because what you bring is so important and timely, but also informative to all of us and people that have so many questions. There are other questions that I have that we can't get to today, which means that I'm going to say in the Spike Lee version, yes, you'll come back again and we'll have you back on again, right? We will, won't we?
You bet. I'd be happy to come back anytime. Thanks for the conversation.
Thanks, Barbara McQuade, for being with us, and we look forward to having you back again soon. Have a great rest of the week, okay?
Okay, thanks. You too.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye now. Wow, guys. We got to stop having folks on like Barbara McQuade at the end of the show.
Yeah, she was dropping dimes.
Dropping quarters, just everything. $half, and they don't really exist anymore. But she was still dropping them. She reached in the back.
She's like, let me see what I got back
Let me see what I got back here and drop these on everybody. She's amazing. I've been waiting to talk with her. I don't even want to say interview, but I've been waiting to talk and have a conversation with her for a long time, because okay, y'all take this the right way. When we talk about people that are smart and they know their stuff and they're on point, that's what we should aspire to be like, in terms of that energy, that knowledge, that competency of information.
And not just that, being empowered by that information and then the diplomacy with which to deliver it. There was no, leaning left or right. It was just
here's the
facts.
Here it is, straight down the middle. She leans in a particular direction, maybe belief system, but in terms of the detail and the facts, here it is.
It's like talking about Jordan's stats. Jordan doesn't average like 34, 5, and 10. Something like that. It's just those are the facts.
The data's there.
Next time she's on, you got to play the Law and Order theme.
Yeah. We might get in trouble for that, so we don't have to.
Yeah, with copyright infringement.
Right. And she'd be like, "Wait a minute, don't bring me into that mess."
Well, you're a lawyer. Get us out.
Get it out of it. Come on, Barbara, step up, girl. Oh, man, she was amazing.
It was great.
Great to have you with us today, man. We'll
Always
do it
a
again
pleasure.
sooner than later. And Dr. Fisher, who's running for the congressional seat that Danny Davis is not going to run for again. Great having him with us.
I heard the part of the interview. Great.
Yeah, he is.
Dive in more and learn more about him.
He's got a lot to say about the medical protocols that we need to be paying attention to and tying that into his candidacy in terms of the political protocols and the social protocols that we need to be paying attention to. I like the way he's sort of using both rails of that to build his candidacy. Rico Mowatt, my man, thanks for being with us this morning in studio.
I always love being here.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. Henry, you keep us on the rails every time you are here, and that is greatly appreciated, and I like to say it a lot. As I say every day to everyone that's listening anywhere in the country, take a deep breath and make your life count, and smile at a stranger today. We'll see you tomorrow.
When it comes to the vitamins and supplements you take, quality counts. If you have questions or concerns about the vitamins you plan on taking, we're happy to help. Mark Drugs, better health and care for you and your pets. The most common signs you need a probiotic are if you have taken an antibiotic and need to balance out the gut bacteria, you find yourself getting constantly sick, or you feel bloated, unwell, or have skin issues. We carry high-quality probiotics at our pharmacies such as Florastor, Floragen, and what I refer to as the silver bullet, Orthobiotic, which combines multiple strains of beneficial bacteria and friendly yeast to stimulate optimal gut flora. Get to know your pharmacist. Caring for you, your family, and your overall well-being is what our pharmacists at Mark Drugs stand for. You have a choice when it comes to your healthcare, and a great choice